The time is precisely 1:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Danushka Madhavala and read by Chandima Birakon. Headlines. The central bank says several policy adjustments suggested by the IMF have already been made. UNP leader requested a parliamentary debate of the IMF report. Sri Lanka will host the 5th BIMSTEC summit tomorrow. It has been stressed that the state bank sector in the country is fully stable. The Energy Minister says the CPC releases fuel more than the daily requirement. Ratmalana Airport commences international flight operations after a lapse of 55 years. A new train service from Vellavatta to Jaffna. Ukraine conflict could spark food riots in poor countries. Dwayne Bravo equalled Lasith Malinga's all-time record for the most wickets in the IPL. Local stories in detail. Commenting on the International Monetary Fund Article 4 staff report on Sri Lanka, the central bank stated that it has continued to publish its analysis and provided further in-depth analysis on policy matters to the government and has been engaging in a continued close dialogue with the government. In a media communique, the bank stated that several policy adjustments by the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank had already been made, which include monetary policy tightening since August last year, allowing exchange rate flexibility, lifting restrictions on foreign exchange market transactions, implementing revenue-enhancing measures, and allowing market-based price adjustments for key commodities. With the government indicating that it is seeking a closer engagement with the IMF, the central bank stands ready to cooperate in such an engagement, the release stated. Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa with senior ministry officials is due to meet IMF officials in Washington next month. Minister Rajapaksa held discussions with the top IMF official this month and sought help from the global lender to spur its fast-plunging reserves and tackle its sliding currency and growing inflation. UNP leader Ranil Wickremesinghe has requested a parliamentary debate of the IMF report. He made this remark while making a special announcement regarding the IMF report. Deputy General Manager Corporate Finance of the National Savings Bank, Christine S. Jesudasan, says that the state banks of the country remain stable. Some parties are making false allegations saying the state bank sector has collapsed. Minister Gamini Lokuge said that Ceylon Petroleum Corporation is issuing around 7,000 to 8,000 metric tons of fuel a day at present. The daily requirement of fuel in Sri Lanka is 5,000 metric tons a day. The minister pointed out that many people pump fuel more than their daily requirement. He also said that some people are stockpiling fuel. The health authorities warn that severe damages can be caused if petrol caught fire. Petrol is highly volatile and catches fire with a small flame. Stocking petrol without proper standards is extremely dangerous, and people are requested not to stock fuel at home. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The first international flight arrived in Colombo International Airport, Ratmalana, after it was named as an international airport. The first flight arrived in Ratmalana from the Maldives this morning. A special function was held at the airport to welcome the first flight. It is significant that international flights resumes in this airport after a lapse of 55 years. 220 million rupees have been spent to renovate the runway for this purpose. At the first phase, international flights will be operated to Maldives and India. A new express train will commence from Vellavatta to Jaffna from next month. General Manager of Railways Dhammika Jayasundara says that the train has been named as Yal Night Express. The fully air-conditioned train will start the journey at 10 p.m. Friday from Vallavatta and reach Jaffna at 5:30 a.m. on Saturday. This train contains 500 seats. Seats can be reserved through the mobile app of the Railways Department. To conclude the local news, the headlines again. The central bank says several policy adjustments suggested by the IMF have already been made. UNP leader requested a parliamentary debate over the IMF report. Sri Lanka will host the 5th BIMSTEC summit tomorrow. It has been stressed that the state bank sector in the country is fully stable. The Energy Minister says the CPC releases fuel more than the daily requirement. Ratmalana Airport commences international flight operations after a lapse of 55 years. A new train service from Vallavatta to Jaffna. That concludes the local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
And on the main news story, Sri Lanka will host the 5th Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multisectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation Summit in Colombo from March 28th to 30th in hybrid mode. Senior officials and the Foreign Minister of Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal and Thailand will arrive in Sri Lanka for the BIMSTEC senior officials meeting and ministerial meeting, while a Foreign Minister of Myanmar will participate virtually. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa will chair the BIMSTEC summit on March 30th with the virtual participation of leaders of Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal and Thailand. Myanmar will be represented by the Foreign Minister of Myanmar at the summit. During the summit, the preceding meetings, the delegates will discuss the progress of the BIMSTEC as a regional group. The summit is also expected to adopt the BIMSTEC Charter and sign several legal agreements. That ends the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Watch Life is brought to you by
More prizes, more gains with CIB New Year offers. Valuable gifts for every bill. 20% discount for bank cards until 10th of April. Visit CIB today.
Moving on to Watch Light. The health officials request the public to strictly follow the health guidelines during the festive season. Deputy Director General of the Health Department, Consultant Dr. Hemanta Herath, said that it will cause further intensifying of existing economic crisis if the country has to go for a lockdown again. He said it is important to adhere to health guidelines as the COVID pandemic is still prevailing. That ends Watch Light.
More prizes, more gains with CIB New Year offers. Valuable gifts for every bill. 20% discount for bank cards until 10th of April. Visit CIB today.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
No matter what anyone says, for your lease, visit the Leasing Mahagedara. People's Leasing, Friendly Leasing Mahagedara. More information from the nearest People's Leasing branch.
People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Headlines of the world news. Officials confirm all 132 passengers and crew dead in the China plane crash. Azerbaijan launches airstrikes in Nagorno-Karabakh as tensions flare. Ukraine conflict could spark food riots in poor countries. Chinese officials have confirmed that all 132 passengers and crew died when flight MU-5735 crashed on Monday in southern China. The China Eastern flight was flying from Kunming to Guangzhou when it nosedived and crashed in a heavily forested area in Guangxi. Rescue teams said they had identified 120 of the victims so far through DNA analysis, aviation officials said. They added that they are still searching for the second black box. The box, which is believed to be the flight data recorder, could provide crucial information about why the plane crashed an hour into its journey. The first black box was recovered on Wednesday and has been sent to Beijing to be inspected by experts, Reuters said. That one is believed to contain the cockpit voice recorder. Russian Defense Ministry yesterday said the Azerbaijan military has violated the November 2020 ceasefire in Nagorno-Karabakh, launching airstrikes against the forces of the breakaway region. The region, which is currently patrolled by Russian peacekeepers, is internationally recognized as a part of Azerbaijan, yet it is predominantly populated by ethnic Armenians. Over the past 2 days, Azerbaijani troops have entered the zone of responsibility of the Russian peacekeeping force in the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh and set up an observation post, the ministry said. The conflict in Ukraine and sanctions against Russia from Western countries are driving up global food prices as Black Sea ports used to export grain remain blocked. The head of the World Trade Organization said the situation could lead to hunger and food rioting in poor countries where food security depends on imports. He said that he thinks we should be very worried. The impact on food prices and hunger this year and next could be substantial. Food and energy are the two biggest items in the consumption baskets of poor people all over the world. He also said it is poor countries and poor people within poor countries that will suffer the most. Russia and Ukraine provide 24% of global supplies of wheat, noting that food imports from the Black Sea region were crucial for survival for 35 African countries. To end the world news, the headlines again. Officials confirm all 132 passengers and crew dead in the China plane crash. Azerbaijan launches airstrike in Nagorno-Karabakh as tensions flare. Ukraine conflict could spark food riots in poor countries. That ends the world news.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
For your wheel lease, visit the Leasing Mahagedara. People's Leasing, friendly leasing Mahagedara. More information from the nearest People's Leasing branch.
People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Development News is brought to you by Let's take coal out of the coconut tree and make the island thriving and prosperous. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
Moving on to development news, the government of Japan has provided a total sum of $604,412 to Skavita Humanitarian Assistance and Relief Project, also called as SHARP, for humanitarian demining activities in northern Sri Lanka. The grant contract was signed last Friday. SHARP has cleared more than 1.9 square kilometers of mine-contaminated land through funds dispersed from Japan's grassroots human security project. That ends development news.
Development News was brought to you by the coconut tree is well grown in almost all the parts of the island. It is an exceptional source of extra income. The shell, the husk and almost all the parts of the coconut tree makes you money, providing you with an excellent extra source of income. It will also help to nourish the economy of the country. You will be guided with all necessary informations regarding the coconut cultivation, with the novel cultivation techniques and all other related and upgraded informations by the Coconut Research Institute, Lunavilla. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
Sports News is brought to you by
Sampath Bank, we present your future.
Chennai Super Kings star Dwayne Bravo equalled Lasith Malinga's all-time record for the most wickets in the Indian Premier League. He came up with a valiant effort with the ball in Chennai Super Kings' 6-wicket defeat to Kolkata Knight Riders in the IPL 2022 opener at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. Bravo achieved the landmark in his 151st IPL game. Malinga had finished his IPL career with 170 wickets from just 122 games after having starred in Mumbai Indians, winning campaigns over the years. The former Sri Lanka fast bowler has taken up the role of the bowling coach at Rajasthan Royals in IPL 2022. England reached the semi-finals of the Women's World Cup with an efficient defeat of Bangladesh in Wellington. The 100-run success at the Basin Reserve continued a strong resurgence from the defending champions, who have won 4 successive matches after beginning the tournament with 3 straight losses. On a tired surface, England started with circumspection against a hard-working Bangladesh attack, at one stage finding themselves 96 for 4. That ends sports news.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Tourism industry specialists from Sweden, UK and Sri Lanka came together on recently in Stockholm. They were presenting Sri Lanka's destination to an influential group of tour operators and travel consultants markets to Sri Lanka in a targeted effort to enhance partnerships. They were also discussed to make the Swedish and Scandinavian tourism more robust. Airlines which facilitate connectivity to Sri Lanka, namely Emirates, Qatar Airways, Sri Lankan Airways, and shared their current and future partnerships with Sri Lanka and outlined increasing frequency and destination support, which is indicative of the strong and positive value they attach to the destination. That ends Business News.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
And on economic news, the government says the prices of fuel will not be increased. The IOC has increased petrol prices recently. Minister Gamini Lukuge said that the facts on increasing the oil prices by the IOC are being studied. A shipment carrying 37,700 metric tons of oil is scheduled to arrive in the island today. That ends economic news.
The Weather Report.
And finally, we take a look at the weather report. Showers or thundershowers will occur at several places in north-central, northwestern, western, Sabaragamuwa, central and Uva provinces after 2 p.m. Fairly heavy showers above 50 millimeters can be expected at some places in north-central, northwestern and central provinces. That ends the weather report. And to conclude this bulletin of news, the headlines again. The central bank says several policy adjustments suggested by the IMF have already been made. UNP leader requested a parliamentary debate over the IMF report. Sri Lanka will host the 5th BIMSTEC summit tomorrow. It has been stressed that the state bank sector in the country is fully stable. The energy minister says the CPC releases fuel more than the daily requirement. Ratmalana Airport commences international flight operations after a lapse of 55 years. A new train service from Velavatta to Jaffna. Ukraine conflict could spark food riots in poor countries. Dwayne Bravo equaled Lasith Malinga's all-time record for the most wickets in the IPL. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.